Welcome to Cannabis Legalization News. It is Wednesday at noon, my time. We're going to join Tom. He is at a conference in Jersey, and we got lots to talk about today. Tom, what's up?
Hey, how are you, Miggy? I'm at
Good,
a
brother.
conference in Jersey. We're over here talking about social equity in cannabis and how to get a license in Jersey. Surprisingly easier than getting a license in Illinois, but there's a lot of good people that I got to meet. I got to meet some clients, which was really, really fun.
Nice.
And then people will recognize you. And so, like, if you go to these conferences too, Miggy, you'll be like, hey, it's you.
Oh, no, I love them, dude. Just like HempFest and all the things. You know, as the industry grew and grows, I've attended all these things. You know, first it was out of curiosity. It was more out of like, what's this thing that's going to be industry? What's this thing that's going to be legalization? You know, and I never really saw the conference aspect of it as being a thing. But yeah, man, it's huge for like networking, business, getting your product out there, all the other stuff, man.
All the ancillaries, and so you can contact me at Tom at Collateral Base, and this is the EIP, Emerging Industry Professional Show over in Atlantic City. I am in a casino, which means that I've basically stayed in an airport, kind of. I mean, casinos remind me of airports.
Oh, they are. It's also in bustle. It's constant going. Hey, with that. Oh, because you're going to another conference after this, right? You're kind of like doing like a mini tour.
No, I fly back to Illinois, and then it is game on. So, likes and subscribes if you are a somebody who applied for the craft grower license and you were denied your points unjustly. We have to get that lawsuit on file by July 7th. And so I have about 4 to 6 clients that I'm going to get that thing knocked out next week. And then we'll get that timely filed because there's just ridiculous. And then there was another lawsuit that was filed in Illinois last week. And so right now there could be a hearing going on it. And so all the craft growers have a temporary restraining order going on right now. So if you're a craft grower, please leave us something in the comments and be like, help. So I've been calling them back, and now we have to get them all applied for so they can appeal, because a lot of them had perfects. Like all of our clients had perfects, which is great because Illinois is a really hard application compared to New Jersey. Like New Jersey's application is about 1/3 the size of Illinois' application. But people here they're bidding $75,000 for a New Jersey license application.
But it's crazy how you're doing this state by state, and nationally though, there's a new poll in Entrepreneur that shows 91% of adults who have used cannabis did so for health and wellness purposes. That's a lot of adults. That's a lot of adults consuming cannabis just for health wellness.
Yep, that is it. I mean, it's all use is medical use. You'll hear Tommy Chong say very often, but the problem is that people just have that myth of the stoner and they just want to get high. But no, it's a wellness product. It does help you balance and supplement your endocannabinoid system. It can also help with pain. It can help with anxiety. It can help with nausea. And so cancer patients would use it for helping stimulate appetite, for example. But you're not allowed to make any of these claims.
I've even mentioned before, dude, in with my activism, it starts off with hey, I don't want to go to jail, and this is a horrible law that protects no one, to hey, that's my back medicine. That's my case of the Monday's medicine. That's my depending on the terpenes, depending on the strain, it's my medicine overall. But you learn that it's not like something that starts off unless of course you're fundamentally ill, which a lot of people are when they're young. I have asthma, but there was other drugs for that. Whereas some people have Crohn's disease, and just finding the right cocktails is just so hard to do, whether it be pharmaceutical or a strain grow. Well, yeah, we got some POC stuff, dude. Let's see.
Hey, but the real important thing, that our lead story, is that 91% of the people that are using cannabis are doing so because it's wellness, and people want to feel better.
It's definitely a wellness issue. And it's true. All use is medical use. Hey, you want to talk about pot stocks?
Sure.
All right, here we go. What you know about why Aurora Cannabis crumbled today?
I figure that Aurora Cannabis crumbled today because it is what they call a black hole of money. The only thing that Aurora Cannabis can do is just lose money, but it can't file for bankruptcy for numerous reasons, and that's probably what's happening. I'm not really all that familiar with what has broken on this story lately, but this is just more of the same. Aurora Cannabis has been one of the worst investments that many cannabis investors have ever made.
Well, it went down 11.7%, which was huge for your market. But yeah, again, any cannabis stock is a boat, right? You're just throwing money into it, hoping it stays afloat, and hopefully it
Yeah,
comes
the
up at the end.
MSOS. Yeah, let's see. I can because I follow and I've invested in the cannabis stocks, much to my chagrin. And so let's go over 1 year. Yeah, cannabis stocks are down 70% over the past 12 months.
Well, either this is a really good time to invest and scoop them up because they'll be cheap and they'll come back up eventually because that's what investors do, or you're SOL and there goes your money because you're watching it flush down the toilet right now.
That's probably what it is. It's a lot of them is their SOL, but when the earnings per share is just starting to get too attractive, and so I think they're going to start rebounding. But
Yeah.
we'll have to wait and see. There's a lot of licenses that are going to get handed out here in New Jersey, and then there's going to be a lot of licenses that are going to be handed out in New York. There's a lot of licenses are getting handed out, but litigation is standing in the way of Illinois because they limited the market. And so when the market's limited, there's only so many seats, and people fight for their seat.
Well, Aurora's a Canadian company, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
most of the big ones are Canadian still.
Yeah, and I see the big ones like Aurora or anything else with Canadian roots, like no kind of investors, like MedMen. They should have gone out of business 3 years after they started, but they didn't but they bounced back too. They're also changed their reputation. They're actually making right investments and right moves. Again, what is Aurora? They are probably losing money, probably bad purchases, diverted funds, but it'll come back.
They shot the moon, and so they just went too big, and they people look at spreadsheets and they fall in love with the projected money as opposed to the actual money.
Oh, yeah.
And so the spreadsheets didn't match reality. And this happens quite often. And then when the spreadsheets don't match reality, you have Aurora Cannabis.
Well, and then we talked about the Amazon model where you throw money at it until it becomes successful, right? Like Bezos knew he was going to lose a lot of money through shipping and all the other things, but that's how you get the market in, right? How you give them a little taste. Like a little, you like this.
No, it's a growth market, and so what they also then would have is a TAM, and a TAM stands for total addressable market. And then Amazon, they looked at this huge TAM of retail and said, if we just start cutting into this, we'll be valued so much, and then it worked. They're one of the most, they're one of the largest retailers in the planet. But that model and that TAM is probably what Aurora Cannabis was looking at. And then they looked at all those models and said, we're going to make this much weed, we're going to sell that much weed. But that they didn't understand that it's still very illegal in the United States, and they couldn't export that stuff. And then they also were making more than the market could support, because I don't think the big MSO model where it's just like we have all the acres under management, we could just put tens of thousands of pounds of cannabis on the market at a whim, is really what people want. I think people want good tasting, fresh cannabis with a brand that they identify with.
Oh yeah, 100%. And a lot of these bigger MSOs just understand the market, the culture, the consumer. Period.
Mm-hmm.
They assume it's like alcohol. Like if I just make a lot of beer available, people are just gonna scoop it up. Whereas we are discerning customers, right? Like yes, some of it. Well, I imagine like a good 80% of your purchases are medicinal, right? Like it's just like people using it for their case of whatever's,
Mm-hmm.
But hey, we got some international news too.
All right,
let's check it out. Saw this one coming. Germany moves ahead with plan to legalize cannabis.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm so glad that Germany and Europe is starting to break, but then they don't really have a lot of inside their country producers. It looks like they're setting up for a import model, which is interesting.
Well, we talked about that already with our one German guest, right? Like their present medical market is all import already. So it makes sense that their recreational market, until obviously the farmers in that country realize like, oh shit, you can make money at this.
Right. But, that's really interesting that I don't know. Europe's going to do it how Europe wants to do it. And I'm just glad that Europe's doing it. And maybe then in a few more years, all of Europe will be legal. And then maybe America will be legal because, we're talking about a lot of things. It's the Cross It Out Act of 2022. It's the smallest bill ever. You just need to get rid of marijuana being in the Controlled Substances Act. You do that, and then you can figure out how to regulate it. But first, make it legal so that IRC 280E doesn't hit, so that they can get bank accounts, and then they'll figure out a regulatory structure. And so if they also want to continue the social equity aspect that has to do with the disproportionate impact zones and the residency there, they're going to need to make that at the federal level, because if they don't, it's a dormant commerce clause issue.
Well, now wouldn't the descheduling overall, though, like as far as when we're talking about legalization, right? That would make it stop being a crime, right? That would stop putting people behind bars, potentially start releasing prisoners at that point.
Yep, except at the state level. So it could still be a crime at the state level.
Right. But federally, though, this is the huge issue, right? This is the thorn in our sides. This is the lingering doom above us. This is, prohibition, the potential to go to jail and have your life taken away just because you want to be a law-abiding citizen, but there's no infrastructure for that.
Right.
It's quite the quandary. But I also, I think with like Thailand also legalizing it in Ishner plants, and Germany now with the process, hopefully this puts the United States under pressure, right? Because now it's going to be a competitive market out there. Hell, South Africa, they've been producing hemp and cannabis, now, so they're going to be a major exporter.
They should be.
Canada
has the same type of problems that Illinois or America has. It's a subtropical plant, so you're making a subtropical plant. It's Canada, not exactly subtropical.
Well, no, but what I mean as far as like outsourcing and whatnot goes, is like right now all our hemp products, right? Well, at least for the majority previously in the past, used to come from Canada. The hemp lotions, the hemp rope, the hemp whatever. That's just a big market in itself. I know you didn't see this. This wasn't one in the show notes, but this is a new one that just came out today. Are you familiar with ASTM International?
Yeah.
So ASTM International, a non-involved party in any business, they just came out with some standards for new hemp seed food products. So they don't list it in this article here because, they want you to buy the actual standards from the ASTM, and that's ASTM.
Of course they do.
That's
marketing.
That's how it always works, and
Yep.
but the thing is, it's if you're gonna be in the business, you gotta pay, right? Eventually, you got to be law-abiding, not even law-abiding, abiding. Abiding by the rules, the regulations out there, right? This group of engineers and whatnot, they're they're partisan type commission existence body that their whole existence is just to prove the science, right? Like to get that repeatability, so you can have that reliability. And I think this is going to be huge for hemp, but this is what we need. We need more of these third-party entities to create more standardizations that the law, which will eventually reference, I think.
Yeah, no, we do. And so the standardization and ASTM and FOCUS focus, they're leading the charge on it. And I like that ASTM's there. So I can't remember which chapter it was. I think it was 38 or 39. I'll cite them in the applications that we write when it comes to, what types of standardizations that you're going to use in creating your facilities.
Yeah, no, that's huge. It's all about the SOPs. And if you like more sexy talks, make sure to like, subscribe, because Tom cannot push the buttons that I am right now.
Nope. I can't. I'm coming to you from an iPad, and so I can't control anything.
So we got more. Oh, go ahead.
I have this hat.
Oh, by the way, you get some comments in the hat. And I didn't realize there were leaves in the hat. That's pretty dope.
Yep. I got this in Wisconsin, a state that doesn't have. Yeah, I know. There's no medical, there's no adult use, but they had this hat for $10, and so I bought it when I was at the Illinois State Bar Association's mid-year meeting in Lake Geneva last week.
Isn't that funny, though? Like, I used to think, like, in my activism, one of the goals I've had, being a citizen, private citizen, whatever, has been cannabis being mainstream, right? But, when you think about it, like, all our lives, even as a kid, pot leaf hats and stuff like that have been available in all these prohibition states, right? Like, somebody's buying them. No one would make this shit if it wasn't a thing. Like,
no, sure. I'm sure, Wisconsin police love these hats. It makes it way easier to pull over somebody. It's like, oh, look at him. Oh,
yeah,
pull him
got
over.
a crime. Got a criminal.
Committing a crime. That hat's a dead giveaway.
And, speaking of killing crime, congressional researchers say marijuana legalization movement is undermining Mexican cartel profits.
No, more international news, and this stuff's really good because choking out them from having illegal profits because of the cannabis plant is fantastic. The Mexican weed from our childhood and youth was awful. And so, like, I am so glad that I have not seen that brickweed since, like, you showed it to me because you went down to Mexico and they still had brickweed.
I made this argument 10 years ago, dude, that the legalization is gonna, so the cartels. When I used to live in Tucson, a good portion of their money comes from cannabis because it's a drug that I want to say a plant that most people are willing to deal because they know it's like a low level crime or most people turn their head the other way or whatever. It's not cocaine, it's not the fentanyl, it's not the heroin. I mean, there's them selling that shit too, but cannabis has been their big money maker. When I was in Tucson before medical times down there, you couldn't buy local good weed because it all got exported out through the state because it was being funneled. That state was just a funnel for like concerts. I'm being told like a concert would start off with like 3 trucks, like tractor trailers, and then they leave Tucson with 4 trucks because one of them has a lot of stuff on it, and they make their tour, and that'd be a concert tour. But that's how shit gets in the United States. Like we wouldn't have issues, like there wouldn't be a cartel if there wasn't an American demand. It's just
Right.
Yeah, and so we
Prohibition still doesn't work.
Yeah,
and then that's the other thing. Not only did we legalize alcohol almost 90 years ago, we realized that prohibition didn't work. Then we launched a war on drugs over 50 years ago and said, that's it. We're going to prohibit this stuff. Wait a minute. Didn't we learn that prohibition doesn't work? Nope. Our ancestors learned that.
Yeah, right. I mean, the fact that we keep making morality a law is the most insane thing that we keep doing to ourselves. But we'll still be fighting like over in Missouri with the Ganjapreneur. Missouri medical cannabis license forced to destroy products and relinquish licenses.
No. How many different cannabis companies have lost their licenses in the state of Missouri?
Yeah, dude. Like this one blows my mind. So did you dig into this one beforehand?
No, I've been at a trade show all day.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to look at this, but it's just saying numerous allergies like security cameras went unreported to regulators. So they're citing like supposedly improprieties, but still, it just seems over the top to take all these licenses away. And again, it's all about this bullshit like diversion thing, right? We're gonna save the children in Texas because cannabis is such a horrible plant. I just
They just weren't following the rules. And so like the license, everything is about if you're a compliance. And so like you have to follow the rules. And if they aren't doing it, they're going to take the license back,
Yeah. Hey, you want to play a little Name That Strain?
You can play some Name That Strain. It sounds fun.
See, I think this one's it for today.
Wait a minute. You didn't do the bumper.
Oh, wait. Yeah, you're right. I did it in my head. I went. All right.
Yeah, it's a much worse user experience when I'm on the iPad because when you go to do the bumpers, I can't hear it.
Well, and also I let you you do all the studio shit. Like I try not to. I'm just trying to be alive most of the time. But
yeah.
Look at this pretty little purple nug though. It's got a little.
Yeah, it's great. Anthocyanins. And so it's got some wonderful purple looks. And then its pistils are all nice and red, very well trimmed. I don't see any sugar leaves. It's just all buds, and by buds, of course, the bracts. And then great resonance coverage. I don't know what this one is because I can only see like the nugget, so I can't help with hints. Why don't you drop some hints?
Let's see. Let me go through the description here. This one actually is from a different magazine. Like it's not even from Leafly, the description, which is pretty cool. Expert growers at Alien Labs brought this to us.
Alien Labs, shout out to them. Those guys hopefully will be coming to the state of Illinois here shortly, but they do some great work, Alien Labs.
A mix of Do-si-do and Skittles.
And so that might be where some of that colors come from. Hey, I don't think they're able to call it that anymore. Terp hogs who bred Skittles really should have called it something else, Schnickelfritz or something.
Well, it's already there though, man. I think most people just like say runts because whenever I hear runts, I think of little nerds candies. So
well, that's the thing. Like Willy Wonka doesn't enforce their patents or their trademarks, and so I guess I can go buy up all of Willy Wonka's trademarks and then just send a cease and desist over to runts. But or if I was Runts, I just buy up all of Willy Wonka's trademarks and then say, all right, well, this defunct cannabis or candy company is now ours. And you can't do that with Skittles though, because M&M Mars owns Skittles. They aren't going to give it to you.
Yeah. Hey, give me a second. I gotta be back in this, here in a minute. Can you hold the fort for a minute? Just 2 seconds.
I have no control over any of these things.
No, just can you see the chat though?
I can't see any of it. No, it's just I can see a chat with you, and that's it. I'm on an iPad.
Let me see if I can leave you with something. I gotta go answer the store real quick.
Well, give me a story or something.
Yeah, I mean,
all right, go answer the door. But hey, so hopefully you guys had a chance to come out and see me. It doesn't really look like it. Sorry about that. It's one of these reasons why we might need to get another producer so that somebody can help with the movie magic as I'm traveling. Yeah.
Well, part live, part ballers on a budget because we don't have real staff besides us.
We don't have real staff, and then it's also this is completely bootstrapped. I pay for all of this stuff out of my law firm, and then the law firm. I'm not in Michigan. I'm in Illinois, where there's been no industry. I mean, this podcast would be totally different if I was set up in Oklahoma, or Michigan, or even in New Jersey, where they have a lot of licenses and an actual industry, as opposed to a limited license state, which is a failure. You should just let businesses fail. You should not create licenses that are worth $3 million. But while I'm wishing, I'd like a pony.
Well, in New York too, the market is so cool to see in growing states, right? Like I was saying about events, like me going to the event started, and it's so funny to see events that happen in prohibition states, and then that state becomes slowly medical and then recreational. It's just kind of an eventual evolution to like how people realize this plant's not going to kill everybody. But yeah, it's so neat though to see the like how I talked about the regulated market, how this is not the drug deal that it used to be as a kid, right? Like I see the opportunities I could have had if I wanted to be in business, which costs a lot of money, just like opening a restaurant or a bar or even a regular store. If I want to open a candy store, just the compliance for that is a thing in itself. So these are all things I never thought about. And then even as I got older, working in the manufacturing world, I just never thought about weed being that, cannabis being that kind of regulated like business as far as like with infrastructure and the housing codes and the building codes and even like when extracts are made, right? There has to be SOPs and danger precautions for like BHO and whatnot. All this stuff is getting made legally now, but now it has actual SOPs and processes, so people don't blow up their apartment based off a YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why you should not be using hydrocarbon to do extraction. But while I'm telling people what to do, they listen or they don't. And if they don't listen, then they come back with a bigger problem. And I'm like, oh, I remember you. I told you not to do that. So did you do it? No. Now where's all the money? He has it. Where's the contracts? I didn't sign them. Should have used collateral base.
And then what do they call that? Separating a man or a fool from their money? But
yes, you can separate a fool from the money.
And there seems to be a lot of fools out there. But hey, speaking of non-fools, thanks James Christ for being a new member. Appreciate you.
Yeah, he was a member. He must have lapsed his membership and came back. Thank you, James.
Hey,
if anybody's got any questions, we'll answer member questions on the air.
Yeah. I'm just going through some of the comments. Keith Vance in hibernation mode, avoiding the outdoors like the plague. I'm out of herb. Oh no.
He's not walking a dispensary in the heat. That's right. There's a heat wave gripping most of the United States. It's beautiful over here in Atlantic City, which is something that people, you don't expect them to say.
That is funny, dude. Well, no, I lived in Jersey for a while, dude. I enjoy the coast out there. What casino are you in?
Harrah's. It's part of the Caesars group. So it's Caesars. I don't gamble, and so like I've walked by a lot of gambling, but I haven't even bet on the sports book.
Double down on 10s, 11. That's the only advice I give you for blackjack.
Oh, okay. At least you also told me what game that was.
Like, I'm gonna go down to Pai Gow and tell them that's not funny.
Yeah, I'm gonna go play some Pai Gow. I bet I cannot find a Pai Gow table here.
You ever play Pai Gow?
No.
Oh, never mind. I think it's a Vietnamese gambling game as well. Let's see what else. Oh, you know what? We want to do a little. What is your business? What's the thing you're going for?
Well, if it's going to be how to cannabis,
There you go.
we can do that, but I'm not sure what we have. I haven't even gotten a chance to read the show notes. I've been at a trade show, and so I've been not even responding to emails. People just come up and talk to me. Fortunately, the trade show is now over, so I have like time.
Well, this one is retaining to. Well, and I don't know why this link is here. So, the topic I believe we're going to talk about was, you know what? Let's. Anybody else guess the strain yet? I didn't see anybody guess the strain. Let's see. Put it back.
Well, let's tell them what the strain is.
All right, this
I'll see if I
sexy
can pull
girl.
the show notes up on my cell phone.
All right, this one is Moonbow.
Moonbow.
Has cemented themselves in the industry. When Oregon's Archive Seed Bank crossed the two and handled resulting strain to the expert growers at Alien Labs, Moonbow was grown. That's the do-si-dos and Skittles. Combination of candy and cookie flavor profiles make for an insane taste and smell, but don't get it twisted. Moonbow is as strong as it is tasty, and you'll have the tasty rainbow after a couple hits. Hey, you know what's funny, dude? Check out where the article is at. Let me see. Hold on a second. So, usually we get our descriptions from Leafly or something, but this one I find interesting. And again, back to the mainstream, like marijuana is pretty much mainstream almost, cannabis, whatever you want to use. This was in Complex Magazine. Like, the fact that most, like, now a lot of your regular magazine, the media are coming up with articles related to cannabis, I think it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of time if we just get all the old codgers out of the way.
Yeah, codgers, they get in the way a lot. But yeah, that's Moonbow. So you already said what it is. Do you want to read more of it, or?
Oh, no, I described it and I read it. What else we got? Oh, we got a
I
little
said
weed.
we do weed history because I can access that. I can't access the how to cannabis like stuff. I know what it's about, but then like either one of them doesn't open. So like one of them is linking to mail, and I can't access that.
Man, no problem. Let me download this PDF then. Oh, this is gonna be the actual report. Let me open it. This will be interesting. Because I mean, how many studies are done? How many more studies do we need? That'd be the question. Here, get you going. Make this. Oh, perfect. All right, here we go. Brand. Get a little hoity-toity. The LaGuardia Committee Report, New York, USA, 1944.
Yep, this is it. This is one of those studies that they did 80 years ago. And it showed that all of the laws that were passed a few years previous to that were garbage. But it did blame racism. So Fiorello LaGuardia, who the airport's named after, commissioned a study after the 1937 prohibition, and then they looked at it. There he goes. This is what he said. As mayor of New York, it's my duty, and his own interest. It goes back many years. And as a member of the House of Representatives, and heard of the use of marijuana by soldiers in Panama. He's impressed with the report of the Army Board of Inquiry, which emphasized the relative harmlessness of the drug and the fact it played very little role, if any, in the delinquency and crime in the Canal Zone. So this is personal first-hand reports of soldiers using the stuff with the Panama Canal. Remember, this is Fiorello LaGuardia in the 1940s. And the Panama Canal, when was that made? That was made, who knows?
Yeah. Well, and, it goes on, this study, but the end conclusion is there's no any reason why it should be illegal. Let's see.
Right.
It's just crazy. Like, and then do you know what president, where was this report seen at?
Oh, this goes back to the 40s. And so, he published this in New York in the 1940s. And they didn't care. I mean, granted, it was 1944. And so everybody's still at war. But then in 1945, 46, they came back, and then racism, segregation, and bullshit. And then eventually get to 1969 when they invalidated it. But I don't even think LaGuardia was able to get it legalized in the state of New York or even in the city.
You know what? I recommend reading these things, though, because the blatant ignorance and
Oh yeah.
sometimes silliness. You can't believe. Like here, the price varies in accordance with excess opinion and potency of the marijuana used in the cigarettes, and this appears to be determined by the place of origin. The cheapest known is known as sassafras. Like that's your cheap. Like that's what they call shitty weed, brick weed back then. It
Yep.
retails for approximately 3 for 50 cents. You get 3 joints for 50 cents. Holy shit! The markup, inflation. I'm telling you, this is the $10 gram right there. This is
Well,
fucking
yeah.
nuts.
Gungeon. Is that how you would pronounce the highest grade of marijuana? It retails for about $1 a cigarette.
Oh my god. Oh, we get that middle grade shit. What's Panatella?
Gungeon comes from Africa.
It's considered to be more. Yeah, so they got the Panatella cigarette, occasionally referred to as the Messerola, is considered to be more. Again, words I never heard of. Than the besides sassafras, sassafras, and holy crap, this is just Gungeon. I mean, wow, this report it just bleeds ignorance. It just bleeds like freshman level high school.
Yeah, but it was the most objective thing that was written on the subject officially, in some respects, by a legislative executive. He's not a legislative executive, then, is he? But by an executive of a city in the 20th century. I mean, there was the LaGuardia report and then nothing, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, like, it just, I don't mean to make fun of the report per se, but it's more of like America's emotional intelligence at the time because they have to really play it. Like, here they talk about there are 2 channels for distribution of marijuana cigarettes: the independent peddler and the T-pad. From general observations, conservatives with pad owners, and it's not a heroin den. You know, this it's so silliness that's kind of going on in here. A T-pad is what we call a place where people go buy weed. There's a room or an
In
apartment.
Harlem, yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, look, but see, in the T-pad, they're trade restricted to sell marijuana. Some places did sell marijuana and whiskey, and a few places also served the house as prostitution. Only one T-pad was found to serve as a house of prostitution. You could buy a marijuana, whiskey, and opium. Again, they're generalizing. So one time there was like a time where you just go and only cannabis consumers, right? Like people only just like to smoke weed. This is insane. This report, just how they break it down to like who's a smoker, and in the end, you're all grown adults. That's what it comes down to, right? Like
in the 40s, with hats like this and shit.
Yeah.
Of course, they wouldn't have had the weed on them, but still, they would have been wearing fedoras and saying all sorts of very strange slang from the 40s. Either way, they've known for decades the lack of relative harm that this thing has, that other substances just doesn't. But then they don't care. It's a political thing, you know, and so even right now, the politics doesn't care, and they're using cannabis to whatever ends they can benefit themselves to use it for.
Yeah, but then there's also the slant, because it goes on kind of sort of where it talks about most of the smokers of marijuana coming with the scope of our survey were unemployed, and out of the others, most had a part-time employment. Occasional, as well as confirmed, users were well aware of the laws pertaining to the illegal use of the drug. No shit, because you go to jail for it. They did not indulge in its use with a spirit of braggadocio, or as a challenge to the law, as has been reported by some investigators in districts. So, in other words, they're saying people smoke weed not because it's a fu to the man, but more of a hey, it's fixing my case of the Mondays. I mean, this is craziness. How the same purpose and use of this plant has been twisted and turned. And still present day ignorance out there believing this shit.
Yep. There's tons of present day ignorance out there, manipulation, control, money, it's greed. And then a lot of people that just think that good people don't use this stuff because they're ignorant. They don't know what they're talking about.
Well, it doesn't help when you got Fox News like Laura Ingraham talking about the shootings and like potheads and be like, well, and then there was another article in the Washington Post. Here, I'm going to pull this out. They try to link aggression with cannabis use, but you know, Washington State's now been legal for 10 years now. Mm-hmm. So, like, let me count the mass shootings that have been happening out here since then. All right, I'm done. You know, but I'm just saying, like, other states too, because of the domino effect. How many legal recreational states are there now? 15?
No, I believe it's 19. closing in on 20. Yep.
So where are these like mass shootings and other craziness that's supposed to be linked to the psychosis part of it?
It's a lie. It's just that they're lying. There's a lot of political crap in our country, and some of the political crap is regarding guns. People have a bias and a belief that no gun control is the right amount of gun control. And I'm like, you know where we should put the machine guns and these AR-15s? They should be like we tier licenses in cannabis for canopy structure and stuff. Why don't we tier licenses for firearms? And you have your basic American standard self-defense license, and then even below that, I'd say your hunting license, because you don't intend to shoot humans. And then your self-defense license, in theory, you're defending yourself, may have to shoot humans, next level up. And then you have your concealed carry permit, next level up. And then if you can get all three of those, then you can get your machine gun license. And so the people that respect guns so much to get a concealed carry license, you really don't have to worry about them. But therefore, if you made the access to the AR-15s more difficult than the access to the concealed carry, I'm fine with that. I think that would really go a long way to stopping the irresponsible uses of firearms in our country.
Well, again, I wish they put as many hurdles in front of guns as they put weed. That'd be nice.
Seriously.
I mean, if you really could protect the people out there, I mean, that's what it comes down to. In the Constitution, and when people talk about the Second Amendment, they forget the part where it says well-regulated. It says
they do. They just skip right over the well-regulated, and they go to everybody gets a gun. It is your fundamental right.
And by well-regulated, it means like, hey, I'm just going to let you know that I have one, so don't come to my house or I'll shoot you. You know what I mean? Like you're going to be on the registry. You're going to be on pass the test. I don't mind people passing psychological evals.
Yeah, especially when they're going to get a firearm.
Yeah, and if really the people who cared about firearm rights were really adamant about that, they would step in with the medical patients issues, right? Like patients should have guns. Like I'm pro-gun. I just don't mind.
The NRA hasn't done shit about legalizing weed, or that form that when you try to fill it out and you have to check a box, they won't let you get a gun. And so I think that violates your Fifth Amendment, your Fourth Amendment rights, because you're not supposed to be able to self-incriminate. And is it unreasonable search and seizure? Yeah, it's unreasonable in the sense that they're taking away your ability to be able to defend yourself with a firearm.
But and then the reason why that bullshit's going to exist on and on is because people aren't standing up and just saying for common sense, just kind of like legalization of cannabis, right? Like we're way over regulating, like just all you gotta do, lab regulation. Have lab regulation, allow small growers to get their shit tested to become involved in the market. That's how you can get rid of the black market, right?
No, the way you get rid of the black market or the illicit market, the untaxed, unlicensed market, is you make it not profitable. And so you also make it like you don't have an excuse to operate in it other than you just don't want to pay the taxes. And so in Michigan, great example, they have a 100-plant license. Anybody can get it. And so you don't really have an excuse to not be licensed and be in the regular market. And then you go to the pot shop in Washington State and you're paying $35 for a quality eighth of cannabis. The guy isn't going to be able to compete with the price and quality point of that. And so that also helps there be no illicit market.
I mean, that's what you're looking for, right? For the guy not to be able to compete, right? Because I don't have a beer guy. I don't have a guy that's going to brew me a 6-pack that I'm going to enjoy every week or whatever, So right. I mean, that's go ahead.
You have some people that are brewery, they're beer snobs, and so they want to brew their own beer, and their beer sucks. But then I'm assuming that's kind of like how home grow is. Everybody thinks that the weed that they grew at the house, the best weed. No, it's just the weed that you grew, so you think it's the best. You're just a little biased because you made it,
Well, that's a running joke with growers, though, man. You ask a grower who's the best grower, they're going to tell you them.
I'm the best grower, man.
I got the best weed. But
my genetics are on fire.
And that's another reason why I've always not had excitement around the cups, the High Times cups and whatnot. It's a lot of it's pay to play, is there really somebody out there organically checking and smoking weed besides people like you and me? No, not really. No one's gonna really have and it's hard to have an informed opinion around cannabis because unless you're around it so much, and You know, like I know people who can identify look at the bud and go, oh, that's a sun grow versus indoor grow. Yeah, I'm still working my way there, buddy. You know, I've been smoking for over
Yeah,
40 years.
or like smell it and stuff, and be like, hey, yeah, this is that.
Yeah, man, it's a painful thing. I'm trying to see if I can find that Washington Post article bullshit about how they try to link violence, but there's so much news
Yeah.
always going on that it's like buried.
Yep. Well, that's all right. Hey, were you able to get that one thing pulled up about the lawsuit, the How to Cannabis segment? You might have to go to the Slack channel and pull it up. I'm not sure if you have the Slack channel open on your computer.
Yeah, let me try. I tried and it wouldn't let me do it from the Google Doc. Let me see if I can.
The Google Doc, it won't let you do it. So we just uploaded the PDF, and then you'd be able to open the PDF and then share that screen. And then we can talk about the craziness that is a limited market and lawsuits that can be filed when you set your cannabis industry up incorrectly. Looking at you, state of Illinois. And New Jersey as well. I was kind of chapping New Jersey's ass on my presentation today. But New Jersey has done a substantially better job than Illinois has.
Well, I'm really excited to see New York's market when it finally happens, but you know, it's just a matter of when or well.
Oh, it was great. We saw some wonderful New Yorkers at the event today. Some of my clients came down and they saw me, which was nice. It's always great to meet clients, you know.
See, I'm trying to open a tab. Okay, there it goes. Now it wants me to download.
Yeah, we'll let you download it, then we'll open a tab and we'll do a quick How to Cannabis segment.
Hey, and while we're waiting for that, did you hear about the basketball star?
No, I haven't heard about the basketball star.
Well,
wait, does that have to do with the NBA Finals?
Yeah, no, the woman that Brittany Griner.
The incarcerated basketball star. I did hear that. That's more bad news. She gets another 6 weeks of the prison time, or they're just still dicking her around and they're not going to release her, and then they're unjustly holding her in Russia.
Yeah, Moscow court upholds order. Brittany Griner held in jail for another 18 days. I think that's insane. But okay, let's see if I find this file now. It's just so crazy how international bullshit.
Oh yeah. Yes, it is. It's annoying.
Desktop.
And then the other thing that was bullshit was that our show from last week was flagged this morning. And so I don't think we have enough viewers on the show right now today because last week's show was flagged. The unbelievable cannabis legalization news. And then this one was, why do people use cannabis? And so, it's why? Wellness and medical reasons, 91%. And then that's why people are using it, because it makes them feel better. Duh. And then it's not like it makes them feel better like heroin makes them feel better, as it addicts them and eventually kills them. It makes them feel better, and then they live into their 90s, which is just so messed up that is a Schedule 1 substance. But then, opioids killed 100,000 Americans last year.
Well, and I told you while we were talking, I was like, do you feel that? It's us getting flagged right now. It was, I just so tired of this shit. Like it's kind of hard to judge now. Like what can I do that will not deem me a bad guy or whatever?
It's impossible to even try to grow the channel, because if you try to grow the channel and those things just keep muting you.
Well, we talked about how the algorithm stimmies us, overall. Like, here we go. File 1901. Okay, I got it. So this is a lawsuit you got going on?
Oh, I don't have this one going on, but somebody else does. This one was just filed, and so if you can figure out how to share it, and then do the classic bumper as well, the little quick one, and then we can.
Gotcha.
If you can get it shared and ready to be shared, and then do the classic bumper, and then hit me, and then I'll introduce this.
All right. Let me see. Banner, brand, bumper, cha-ching. There you go.
Yep. What up, everybody? It's me, cannabis industry lawyer Tom Howard, and we're going to talk about this. And there we go. And then, Miggy, can you resize it so I'm a little bit larger than this? This is the dinky me No, the other one, the other button, the other button. That's the button. Anyway, thanks guys for joining us. In this episode of How to Cannabis, we're going to be discussing a lawsuit that was recently filed in the city that I live in federal court. And so this How to Cannabis section is the Dormant Commerce Clause. And so the Dormant Commerce Clause is going to totally screw up many of your states, how they have done their cannabis licensing structure. So they usually self-deal. And then not only do they self-deal, they make it a discrimination against other states. And so only people from Illinois that are social equity and also veterans for the grows are eligible to win a license. And as a result, that is an unjust and unconstitutional, pursuant to the Dormant Commerce Clause, discrimination against interstate commerce, even if that interstate commerce is, at the federal level, illegal. And so interstate commerce cannot be preferenced or manipulated by one state to make it more difficult for another state to do business. And that's what the cannabis licenses do. They give you additional points for in-state residency. Here we are in New Jersey. In New Jersey, they have one particular whole class of licenses that are called the micro licenses that can only go to people that are 100% New Jersey owned. In theory, those would violate the Dormant Commerce Clause. Or what about the social equity requirement for 5 out of the past, in New Jersey it's 2 years, of residing in an economically disadvantaged or disproportionately impacted area? That would also violate the Dormant Commerce Clause because it could only go and it only benefits in-state residents and it prejudices out-of-state residences. So there's been numerous cases, and this is one of them. It's Miggy, it's so blown up you can't even read the thing. So control minus that a little bit, and let's talk about what this lawsuit's actually about. So it's asking for injunctive relief. Injunction relief, stop enforcing the law. That's what they're asking for. And this is your Dormant Commerce Clause complaint. This lawsuit could be filed in New Jersey right now. It could be filed in New York right now. And that is how I would phrase it. This one is so interesting in the sense that they have made it targeted at the in-state requirement. The in-state requirement not only has the only way you can be social equity in the state of Illinois is to be an Illinois resident. And so it's also going to invalidate the social equity requirements, at least when it comes to the dispensaries. And so this all results from you having a limited market state in which the paper license in and of itself is worth more than $1 million because nobody else gets the right to do it, and they aren't going to give any more of these licenses away. That's some of the problems that you see when you have a limited license state. Here I am in New Jersey, unlimited license state, probably way less litigation. In New Jersey, you're going to have shareholder dispute litigations and also some community litigation because they have a loophole in their priority scheme that they made because it's unintended, but they just gave the communities way more power than they thought. But that's what this is. It's the Dormant Commerce Clause. You got to watch out.
Question: Dormant Commerce Clause. So you're saying because these states create rules
there it is, right there. See, non-residents are discriminated against in favor of state residents. That's essentially the Dormant Commerce Clause right there.
So how can we have a lawsuit with a dormant clause like this when actually the law itself is right? The states themselves are not allowed to have interstate trade. So how can you have a federal lawsuit against your inability already just to be interstate? Like you're not a
it's the same reason why it's a controlled substance and a Schedule I controlled substance. The regulation that they have is no law. There's nothing that's required. Oh, people behind me now, great. Right? And so that's all right. There's only about 45 people watching this. Yeah,
73.
Yeah.
We got 73.
73. Okay, we have 73 people watching. But the way that they made it illegal, they said we're going to regulate its commerce by prohibiting it. And so they could still have its commerce regulated. So it doesn't matter that it's illegal at the federal level. There's still interstate commerce in it. And as a result, one state's not allowed to discriminate against another state in their award of their licenses. And this is one of the, in Oklahoma, we could file this lawsuit, but anybody can get it. And so the Oklahoma loophole is you just enter into a 2-year lease. And then once your residency requirement vests after that 2 years, you buy the license from them. So in many states, you're going to see these types of residency requirements killed, or Congress has to endorse the discrimination at the state level. And so like all these economically impacted areas, if they want, points for social equity to be related to that, they're going to have to, at the federal level, say that unfair discrimination is okay. But I don't like that, because why are we here? Where's the social equity? The social equity comes from the arrest, the incarceration, the conviction. Like Chris, we had him on the show in Arizona. That's social equity. He was arrested. That's social equity. You were arrested. And I'm not sure if you're actually convicted. The way they defined it in New Jersey, half of their social equity is violating the Dormant Commerce Clause, because they have the residency half, but then they have the cannabis conviction half. Cannabis conviction anywhere in the United States. Like I said, you are social equity in New Jersey. And if the purpose of social equity is to, very often also, because how many more black and brown people are arrested for cannabis?
Right.
It's order of magnitude. So then when you look at who was awarded licenses in the state of Illinois, who was it? It was people who resided in these depressed areas. What the heck does that have to do with an arrest? How is that social equity? You just happen to live there. And so that's why I don't like that form of it, because then 90% of the licenses, 100% were social equity, but 90% of them were for residency social equity.
Yeah.
So they're still underrepresenting the people that were convicted. So if they're trying to say, look, all these black and brown people are arrested disproportionately, and we need to make sure that they can have a seat at the table, and then their seat at the table is 10% out of 100% of the licenses, they still don't have the representation, do they?
So do you think like we were saying with the Oklahoma 2-year clause, which is kind of actually screwing a lot of people now because of when they're closing the market coming up? I got a friend out there who's just about to hit his 2-year mark, and he'll be hitting the 2-year mark after they close the licenses. So, but that was enough for them not to get sued or avoid lawsuits, that 2-year clause? Is that what you're saying?
No, somebody could file a lawsuit. It's just that it was easier to do the workaround. And so if it's easier to do the workaround because it's an unlimited number of licenses, you don't see the lawsuits get filed. But if it's a limited number of licenses, and the license in and of itself is worth millions of dollars, and the only way to get that license is to be an Illinois resident, and the only way to get the social equity points is to be an Illinois resident, they are fucked. And so what are they going to do? I don't know. I'm going to have to update my clients that have dispensaries, because this is for the dispensary. But I'm going to have to call this attorney in Peoria and be like, hey, I'd like to implead, which, of course, welcome to Cannabis Legalization News, where we explain laws so you can change them. And I am a lawyer. And so impleading means like our plaintiffs would get injected into the lawsuit with an additional count, and then we would expand it, because the way they define this, they defined it the same way, whether it was a craft grow or whether it was a dispensary. And so you can wage the same style of lawsuit, because all my clients are perfect. Some of them were just wrongly denied. They misjudged the application. So now we filed the appeal so that they get a perfect score. And then it was the only one that didn't get it was somebody should have gotten social equity. They didn't get their social equity points. And I'm like, that's crap. And then everything else, the subject matter of the actual application, perfect. But then when it comes to like, your Illinois residency requirements and your social equity requirements, if those are kicked, everybody's got a perfect. They all deserve a license, right?
Wow.
Well, all the perfect applications deserve a license.
Yeah. Well, you guys' process there's no transparency behind it all, right?
They finally gave scores last week.
Yeah, but they're getting scores, but not how they came about that score, right?
Right.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like they're so layered in bullshit when it comes to like their transparency of like, well, we have an algorithm that'll figure that out. No, you don't need an algorithm. What you need is how many people are applying. How many people, again, their applications fill all the needs, right? Because you're going to have many, many tied applications. At that point, you got to go, okay, one for each person. That just to be fair about things.
That's the thing. That's one of the reasons why if you limit the market like this, you're going to have these lawsuits. Now, if all those 450 people that were able to get their application perfect were then given a license, nobody's paying millions of dollars for that license.
Right.
But then they'll say, like, nobody's going to be social equity then. That's not true. You could do exactly what they did in New Jersey, and you can make social equity based on the arrest anywhere in the United States. Now we're not discriminating against out-of-state actors. We're discriminating against people that aren't social equity.
Right, but then again, you're gonna have like tied social equity applications. If they just took all these tied applications, put them in the bingo ball machine, you know what I mean? It's about the randomness of how you're gonna be
Yeah.
equal. It's not like I'm gonna select. You know, everybody should have the same amount of bingo balls in the machine, and that's the only way
Yeah.
you can be equal in this whole competition. Besides the limited state licenses, it enables a lot of bad behavior in Oklahoma. My friend out there who is just missing the mark on a license. He's telling me though, there's scams going on out there where a real estate agent, some guy who like made a name for himself in one of those home networking things, whatever. But he's selling opportunities. He's telling people, "Look, give me $16,000, and I'm going to show you how you can run a cannabis business in Oklahoma, and you can do it from home. And you don't have to be in Oklahoma State." Right? This guy is clearly scamming people because he's telling them they have to find somebody that's going to be a proxy for them in Oklahoma. How many fucking Oklahomans are going to be a proxy for somebody else who, they're going to be in business for themselves already? It's just, it's not like, oh, finally the opportunity has come and you fucking brought me the money. No, these people have already been figuring out how to do
They're
it.
scamming you. They're scamming
Yeah.
you. But then, like, it's just bad that the point of social equity was to have these problems that happen to the people that were arrested, and they know that the people that are arrested and convicted, they know what their demographics are. There's data on it, and so if each one of those was given their ability to have their seat at the table, then the number of licenses, in theory, should match the same data set. And so, but they didn't do it that way. They didn't, and so they set it up in a way that rewards people that reside inside their particular states. And so I think that they're going to have a real hard time fighting these lawsuits. But we'll see what happens, man. Hey, let's wrap this up because I am the last person at this convention.
Yeah, man. Hey, thanks for joining us. We appreciate all you guys coming out, hanging with us. Appreciate all the members. Where's the... Oh, there he is. No, that's not the back one.
It's the 35-second one.
35 seconds. Oh, here we go. All right. All right, kids. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you again Sunday.
Yep.
Thanks. Bye. Ooh. All right. Oops. Brown chicken, brown cow.